The first change to look at with Super Baby Vegeta 2 is to his 2M, where they reduced the delay. Previously, this was a -7 on block normal, meaning that it was unsafe for a stack of pressure. On whiff, it took a total of 35 frames. Now for a look at the reduced recovery on his 2M. It's now -5 on block, meaning it's also a safe normal. So now, as far as his pressure goes, 5L is, I think, his only unsafe normal outside of 2H. As 5LL is safe, 2L is safe, 5M is -1, 2M is now safe, and 5H is now -5. Baby has so much options with his pressure now, and this will just add yet another normal that he can safely mind game around. In practice, this should be a relatively small change, but in case a Baby player now wants to end their pressure at 2M, they can. This also means it recovers faster in neutral. 33 frames to fully execute. Baby's dive kick, Interceptor Kick, has an adjustment to its knockback on hit. Previously, the light version didn't quite lead to a ground bounce on the opponent. The medium version led to a sliding knockdown. If you try to add this into some of your combo structure, it really wasn't too forgiving. As you can tell right here, you couldn't quite link this from the key blast that would come out of your 214S. Now let's take a look at the new knockback on Interceptor Kick. The light version now actually gives you a bit of a longer ground bounce. Meanwhile, the medium version also gives you a ground bounce, which means that Baby can now actually implement these in more of his combo routes and get some assist extensions. It also means that Baby is able to add this into his solo loop play. Because of this change, some of Baby's optimals have actually been updated. You can check out KJ Pixel's Twitter and find the document from him there in order to check out the new optimal spreadsheet for Super Baby Vegeta 2. This is, again, kind of another crazy thing to see about with Baby. He was a top 3 character the previous patch, and yet so far we've only seen some buffs from him. But not to worry, we actually have a nerf to discuss next. Now to get to the biggest nerf for Baby in this patch. In fact, it's its only nerf, arguably, and that's going to be the Revenge Death Ball's down input. Previously, Bandai added a version of Revenge Death Ball that gave Baby some of the best level 3 knockdown in the game. This is the old version of the move without the down input. It would put the opponent pretty much at full screen. However, if you held down during the input, Baby would throw the ball downwards, giving him this spacing for his level 3 Okizeme. Alongside the 42 frames of advantage, Baby actually had access to Majin 21's old jump, float, left-right mix-up that was a meaty. You weren't able to 2H this, and even though I wasn't able to get the JL there, more experienced Baby players would be able to execute that and go for a left-right mix-up. This was a baffling change. Why does Baby, who was one of the best point characters in the game with his high damage, great zoning, and excellent meter build, also getting access to a level 3 Okizeme that players have been asking to be given back to Majin 21 for years? This is the most brazen buff of the previous patch, and I'm glad to see that Bandai has decided that, yeah, they shouldn't have given this to him in the first place, because they've taken this away from him. The way that Bandai affected the knockback on this version of Revenge Death Ball has to do with the frame advantage that Baby now gets. It's dramatically reduced. Now the opponent will recover, and Baby only has 27 frames of advantage to work with. This means that if you try to go for the left-right float mix-up now, the opponent can actually call this out and anti-air it. This is a pretty good nerf for Baby Vegeta to receive overall. I think it was ridiculous that they gave him this Oki before, when, again, players have been asking for Oki like this to be returned to some other characters that have had it removed. And so now Baby players are going to have to resort to going back to some old level 3 setups to mix up the opponent. Things that required Baby to actually put himself into the corner in some of his combo routes. Instead of being able to do his optimals, throw you back into mid-screen, and then get the best left-right mix-up in the game, if not one of them anyway, now Baby actually has to compromise a little bit in terms of his combo routing to get his better level 3 Okizeme setups. There's still use cases for the level 3, of course, but now it's not quite as cut and dry as it was before. Again, Baby has to either compromise his combo routes, and if you just tag into him like this, it's not like you get access to that level 3 Oki. So this is a pretty big nerf to Baby as a mid and as an anchor character. However, this is pretty much the only nerf that he actually gets in this patch, and I'll talk about that later in the summary. The last change to talk about with Super Baby Vegeta 2 is to his other level 3 Great Ape Assault. Previously, it was pretty slow startup, hitting at frame 18. Great Ape Assault is now 8 frames faster. meaning that it should be harder for the opponent to actually bait this move out, as well as potentially make it easier for Baby to get combos into it. Frustratingly, it's not like all of a sudden Baby's able to go into the super during his limit break state from a level 1. It still just barely misses right here in this particular context, but still, it should be easier for you to use it in some combos. It's just going to be a little bit finicky still, which is the intended weakness of the move, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bandai's next buff for Baby in some future patch is letting him actually go into this level 3 instead of his Revenge Death Ball when you're in Limit Break. While Baby was one of the best characters in the game in the previous version of Dragon Ball FighterZ, he's also one of the least nerfed out of that category of characters. Whereas characters like Trunks and Vegeta see some damage nerf to some of their best starters, Baby doesn't really see any sort of damage or meter gain nerfs, meaning that he's still top of the class in terms of his corner carry, bar build, Okizeme, and, of course, his insane damage output, which I wished any one of those was touched in this patch. I will take the nerf to his level 3 because it was stupid that Bandai even gave him that particular option in the first place. And it's not like that particular Okizeme is going to be straight up killed. Baby just has to go back to using older level 3 setups to create really strong mix-ups that's a little more self-reliant on himself as opposed to just splashable with any team. But that's pretty much the only nerf that Baby got. His damage and meter build is still crazy high, and his combos are, of course, as easy as ever, and he even has access to some new higher rewarding combos thanks to the changes to Interceptor Kick. Thanks to the fact that one of his best partners in crime, Captain Ginyu, is also crazy buffed in this patch, I genuinely think that Baby and Ginyu are going to be a top 3 shell in this version of the game for any player that wants to pick up that particular shell, which you do see players like Argo, if I remember correctly, rocking this out in some tournaments. We'll have to see where the meta goes from here, but Baby Vegeta should still be one of your first picks for a point character. I don't think he's going to be as strong as an anchor or as a mid thanks to the loss of his level 3 Oki, but he can certainly get the job done since, he's still a great solo character.